Hello, good afternoon. Welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time to explore this side of DevCon, all the case studies that we're going to be presenting. Today I'm going to talk about a WebDirect application that my team built, and I'm going to focus on why we chose WebDirect versus other options that we had, and how WebDirect helped us build it very quickly and very efficiently. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Irwin Alvarado. I'm the Senior Software Engineer and Product Manager for E2 M2Me. It's a software for engineering and scientific projects. I'll get into that in a little bit. But I like beer and I like music. So I travel a lot to music festivals all around the world. I've been to Coachella maybe about 10 times in a row. It's pretty cool. I've been working with FileMaker for more than 13 years, freelancing back in Texas. I work for the support group in Los Angeles, and I'm working for E2 Consulting Engineers, which is a civil engineering consulting firm. I also am a proud parent of a beautiful 3-year-old. Let me talk a little bit about who we are. E2 Consulting Engineers started in 1988. We're a civil engineering firm, and we specialize in environmental services, remediation, and most of our big business is around gas and oil pipelines. We also do design and infrastructure operations or staff augmentation. Our main clients are utilities. And utilities come with a lot of regulations and a lot of very strict policies regarding safety and handling of data and safety information. E2 M2Me is a market solution that we built over the last 4 years. It started very simple, just as an internal FileMaker Go application that we began to use in an environmental remediation project in Clear Lake in California. From there, it grew very rapidly, and we began implementing it across some utility clients mainly to provide field data capture and getting pictures from the field up to the offices. Over the last 4 years, we've expanded the footprint and the technologies that E2 M2Me uses, using a robust SQL Server as a backend and FileMaker for front-end data entry capture. And we do a lot of web front-ends using PHP and GIS dashboards or maps that use the data that we collect in the field. We like to say that our system goes from the shovel to the shareholder, because we really capture all the information that's going on in the field, do analytics on it, report, and get summarized information up to the higher level with our clients. First, let me give a little bit of background of what we're doing and how this application started. I don't know if some of you might remember the gas explosion that occurred in San Bruno about 7 years ago. This was a gas pipeline that destroyed half a neighborhood south of San Francisco. After that, the California Public Utility Commission implemented a plan to test and repair all the existing pipelines that haven't been inspected in the last 10 years in California, and that was a lot. So that was a huge undertaking and a huge project of several $1 billion. And the idea is that every, I believe, 10 or 15 years, the pipelines need to be re-inspected and reevaluated for safety and retrofitted to ensure that nothing like that ever happens again. And because the state is spending a lot of money, they have very strict and very comprehensive audits on all the utilities that are performing this work. So that's where we come in. Typically, the CPUC would send a request to one of our clients or to the contractors working on the projects, and we have about 10 days to respond. Failure to respond or non-compliance of this result in very, very big fines to these companies. So it's very sensitive and information that has to be delivered very quickly and very accurately. I'll tell you a little bit about how typically request looks like. First, someone gets an email with a Word document from the CPUC. The program manager evaluates it and determines what are the deliverables that they need to turn back, and it identifies all the staff that might be able to provide some of these answers across different departments in the organization. The manager then, he would create or she would create a big email, typically between 5 and 12 people, and she'll send all the questions and answers to everyone on that email so that they could collaborate. And then the obvious thing would happen, utter and complete chaos. It's not pretty. They have only 10 days to respond, and you have people just emailing to each other for 7 to 8 days. Some of them just reply to a single person. Other people might attach files that might be old or older versions of them. And the project manager's role is to make sure that she's keeping track of the conversation, that she's keeping track of the files that are uploaded or shared, and that she puts together a deliverable that could be submitted to the CPUC within 10 days. So we encounter a number of challenges with this workflow in this situation. First, I think for a workflow like this, email is definitely a broken system. There's basically there's no incentive for people to respond. And a lot of people that might not be very computer savvy, they don't have the best email etiquette. They don't know that sometimes you need to respond to everyone or how to attach files. And that makes it very complicated to keep track of. Also, there's no centralized repository system. The program manager typically has to fish for files and attachments, make sure she has the correct versions, and make sure that nothing's missing. And finally, there's no chain of command or review process. This is the most important issue that we face, because an email could sit in someone's inbox for days, and it could be a very urgent email that person's just not aware of. There's no review process between email chains. Sometimes, you want to review what the information people are providing you to make sure it's going to be accurate and correct. So what did we come up to? This solution was initially planned by our process improvement group. Navneet, she was the lead owner of this project. She came to us and asked if the E2 M2Me team could help build something to facilitate this process. And we had this set of requirements on the table. It had to be very cheap. It had to be done very fast, because we had about a month from the time that we knew that the CPUC was going to start sending data requests. They wanted this to be a high visibility project for managers and directors in the organization. And they wanted to have good accountability of end users. For example, if someone did not respond to an email or did not respond to a request for information, they wanted to know immediately before it became a problem. We wanted to be able to send secure email communication, and I know email's not super secure, but I'll tell you how we handle that. And we wanted the ability to create a workflow around the whole process. So first, we started, even before we considered going to FileMaker, we put everything on the table to see what other options we had to get something built quickly, because we had a concern that even with FileMaker, we might not be being able to hit the deadline of 3 or 4 weeks. First, we considered a shared spreadsheet between everyone, and after 2 minutes of debating, we realized that no, that was not a very good option. We also looked at other off-the-shelf project management or document sharing applications, and the main problem with those is that they work very well to share documents, but you cannot really customize a workflow to your users. The main contender here was Microsoft SharePoint, because our company is already invested in Microsoft products, and our clients are as well. But the main issue with that is that it wouldn't provide a very customized way of enabling workflow and systematic notifications across the system, even though it had very good file sharing and project management capabilities. So that's why we went back to WebDirect as an option. And there were a lot of very good points as far as what we were going to do with WebDirect. First of all, with WebDirect, we had the ability to build anything we wanted. So we didn't have to rely on a SharePoint screen or folder that was already built for us. We had the ability to guide the user to the whole workflow. And we identify different user stories for this. We have the managers, and then we have the team members and champions assigned to specific pieces of the request. So they get treated very differently by the system. When a person that's assigned to a question logs into the system, they immediately get taken to the question or to the request that they're assigned to. Versus the managers, they get a bird's eye view of everything that's going on across different requests. We were able to build a tracking system for usage. So for example, we're able to track emails that are sent out. When a user clicks on an email to go to the system, we're able to track their responses and user rates. So if we see that a person hasn't responded or accepted a request within more than 2 days, we immediately send other notifications and inform the person in charge. And most importantly, what saved this project, it was that WebDirect had the ability to receive URL callbacks from an email application. So what we ended up doing is that we created a URL callback with an encrypted parameter that when and calling an internal script that when the user authenticated against it, it would unencrypt the data and know where to take the user to which exact record or what kind of user this was. So the user would only get emails with this encrypted information and a big URL that they would just click and it will take them to the right place. The development was a challenge because we only had 2 to 3 weeks to finish the project. So we went with an very agile approach to building this. And the first week, we didn't even touch FileMaker at all. The first week, we did everything on paper. We focused on building a whole UI UX workflow chart and diagram of the whole application. We identify all the user stories and the ERD. So we pretty much built the system on paper. And by doing that process, we discovered a lot of things that we didn't realize when we were discussing the project initially. So that was very helpful. Even before creating our FileMaker database or schema, we had already planned everything out. And I know it sounds more of a waterfall approach, but it was very fast. It was a very fun process to line everything up. Not in extreme detail, but at least know what you're going to build. Then on week 2, we focused on the actual development sprint. This is our E2 M team from LA, which they helped build this application. So it was 2.5 developers. The 0.5 was me, not because I was short, but because I was working on other projects as well. And they did a great job. We divided up the work in one person building the layouts and doing all the pixel pushing, another person building navigation and workflows around the app, and the third person building server-side scripts and all the processes that were occurring behind the scenes. The last week, we focused on user acceptance testing. We spent about 2 days with key users that gave us very good feedback on the application, and we tried to do some stress testing in WebDirect, but we didn't have very good results on that. Not that we couldn't do it, but we were not sure what we're looking at on the server. So hopefully, maybe later I'll see another session here about maybe doing stress testing on WebDirect. So I'll explain a little bit the workflow behind the application we built. First, now that the CPUC request comes in, the manager they have to evaluate it, but now they input it into the system and break everything down. The system automatically prompts for the dates, and the due dates that they're going to have is going to default for the 10 business days that are usually required, but the product manager could update those. The manager also identifies all the team members that are going to be participating on this, and once they do that and submit the request, each team member is going to get an email saying they were selected to participate in the data request, and ask them to either accept or deny or reject the data request. Then the system will track those due dates and will start automatically sending reminder emails for certain actions in the system until we record a flag that the user did it. Let's say the user accepted the request, the user submitted documentation, or the user submitted a response. If they haven't submitted a response in 5 days, we start sending in them emails every hour. So here's a screenshot of how they break down data requests. Obviously, this is just an example, but the last data request that we got included 84 questions, and each of the questions the CPUC was asking had a good amount of details on a lot of different projects, like budgets, where contractors were used, any security issues that might have arisen, or change order modifications. So it was very, very extensive, and they couldn't have done a big data request like that without the application. The user then, when the user gets the email notification and they click to accept they click to look at what they're being asked to do, they're taken into, they put in their credentials into the system, and we take them to the correct data request, and they read it, and they determine if they can answer the question. If they do, they accept the data request. If not, they reject it, and they do an explanation of why they can't answer the question. Then the manager will assign someone else. If they can't assign the question, then they'll go to this dashboard right here. So in this case, here on the little black menu on the left, I have all the data requests that I have assigned to. So each data request has a little dashboard like this, where we track the actual question, the responses across different stages, and at the bottom we have 2 different tabs. One is the collaboration dashboard, and the other one is just a portal to store additional files and keep everything, track everything against a specific request. So each of those squares right there at the top is going to be a specific request. So for example, question number 1 has request A and B, and question number 2 is just a simple question without any broken down items. On the collaboration dashboard, we have the ability to let a user ping other users, even if they're not assigned to the data request. So for example, the user would enter on the field across the top a comment or a question. and they might be able to ping someone. For example, if we look from the bottom to the top, MT first requested a file to be attached, and then Kristen, KE, said, well, pretty much I don't have the file, so she pinged someone else that she knows that has a file, so she pinged MM. And MM came in and uploaded the file into the system. The main advantage of this is that now we have a single unified place where we're tracking communication from for a particular topic on the data request. The document storage is the same. This is a very simple, just FileMaker container storage where they add the documents and they add notes. At the end of the project, the program manager is gonna select the files that they're gonna export and deliver to CPUC. Managers have a centralized dashboard to view all the operations that are going on in the whole pipeline process. So here we have 4 active data requests in the systems, and the manager can track very easily and get directly navigate to each of the records that they want to evaluate. So there were quite a few improvements that came with the application. One is that we brought accountability to end users. We're tracking where users click. We're tracking the email responses when a user responds to an email, even if they accept or reject. So the system knows that if it must send a reminder email or not. We haven't built any reporting or logging based on that, but we have now enough data that we can determine if there's any improvements that we need to make operationally to make things better. The other is that now we have transparency and speed. There's no more secret email chains going around. There's a single version where everything's being tracked, and it's very helpful. But I guess the most important thing is now Kristen is less stressed. So, and finally, we wanted to make sure we were measuring if we had a success or not on this little application we built. Right now, so far, well, this was from 2016, but so far we've had 100% on-time delivery of data requests versus previous years that it was roughly about 60% were on time. The managers used to spend about 10 to 15 hours every week when they got a data request to keep track of everything. Plus, they had to do their regular jobs anyway. And now they're spending about 5 hours or less, even if it's a big data request, because they're just supervising and making sure that everything is moving forward smoothly. And the little comments box that I showed you, that's what a typical communication log looks for a single part of a data request. Before, they used to have hundreds of emails going back and forth. Now each of them has an average of 3.4 comments per request. So it's very, very streamlined, and it's very little information that gets right to the point. And that's it. I don't know if you guys have any questions, but again, I wanted to thank everyone for attending, and thank you so much. Yes, we have a table to generate the communication record that needs to be sent, and then a FileMaker server-sided script that actually sends out the email. Yes?
How are you posting it? How many users? And how are you generating links to the WebDirect form?
So this was an initial concern. We had a plan to have each data request was going to have about 5 to 12 users. concurrent users we're going to be working constantly. And for example, having 3 or 4 active data requests was a very feasible situation. I've looked at concurrency in the server, and we had about, at the most, 20 concurrent users at any given time. And we have a pretty robust server on AWS, so it's been able to handle that very efficiently. I'm thinking about actually bringing it down because we're not really using the full potential, and it's a little bit expensive. No, it's not FileMaker Cloud. It's FileMaker server running on a Windows machine. And the main reason we didn't use cloud is that at the moment we couldn't schedule server-side scripts in the cloud.
Do you have any fight back, like from team members at your facility during the initial rollout?
Not necessarily a fight, but we had some delays in development. We had a junior developer that spent a little bit too much time doing some of the initial tasks, but that was about it. So just.
You do the commenting and the pinging. Is that text messaging and technology?
Yeah, well, it's it just sends another email to the person that's being pinged. Yeah, so we have a table for the comments, and then it has additional fields to record a user ID for whoever's going to get pinged. All right, well, thank you everyone.